My mind has been begging the question for several years now, and finally today I had all of the equipment to actually assemble a 3-axis gimbal on top of another 3-axis gimbal and have enough cameras to mount at each location so that we can compare footage and find out whether a 3-axis gimbal on top of another 3-axis gimbal can actually get you more steady footage. So on the bottom here I have a large 3-axis gimbal that's meant for carrying DSLR cameras. On top of that I've mounted a smaller 3-axis gimbal. This is just designed for carrying a cell phone. So down here at the bottom we have this first Insta360 camera mounted here, and it has no stabilization. Now these cameras, all of these cameras actually have really good in-camera stabilization, but for the sake of this experiment I've turned off all of the in-camera stabilization so that everything is fair in between these cameras. So all of the stabilization that you see will be provided by the different gimbals. So down here at the bottom, our first action camera doesn't have any stabilization. It's just hard mounted straight to this handle, which I'll be holding. The second action camera right here is mounted to the plate of the first 3-axis gimbal, so it will have one level of stabilization. Then up here I have my Galaxy S10, and it will be the combined stabilization of both 3-axis gimbals. So I'm just gonna go booking it through my backyard, running, holding this, actually kind of purposely shaking it around a bit so that we can really compare how much stabilization is happening here. Let's get to it. Alright, so here's the setup. Over here on the left we have no stabilization. This camera is just connected straight to the handle on the first gimbal. In the middle here we have the camera that is hooked to the first gimbal, so this has stabilization. And then over here on the far right we have the camera, which is on the gimbal, which is on top of the other gimbal, so it is on top of 2 gimbals. So I'm going to go ahead and start running and compare all the footage. Here we go. Alright, to give you guys a bit closer look at what's going on here, I'm going to show you the next segment at full screen. So here is no stabilization. Here it is with 1 gimbal. There's still a little bit of wobble going on there. And then here is 2 gimbals. If I stop experimenting right there, we'd have to draw the conclusion that 2 gimbals is superior to 1. However, I've been paying really close attention to how the gimbals have been responding to the different movements, and I'm noticing that the first gimbal isn't nearly as steady with the second gimbal on it as it is when there's just a camera on it. So here's a side-by-side with the first gimbal with just a camera on it, and then with the second gimbal on top of it. And you can notice at this point right here, it looks way more wobbly than it does when there's just a camera on it. So this is what I'm thinking. A gimbal is only designed to carry a solid, unmovable payload, like a camera. But in this scenario, we have the second gimbal on top, and the second gimbal, anytime it compensates, it's shifting its weight, which is causing the first gimbal to not only have to compensate for the movement of the handle, but also for this shifting payload that it has on top, and I think that's what's throwing it off and actually making the first gimbal less steady than it would be with a camera on top of it. So my final conclusion is that having 2 gimbals is actually counterproductive, and it's not really any more stable than if you just had 1 gimbal. So just use your 1 gimbal, it will be super smooth, and this will accomplish nothing. Anyway, before I close this video out, shout out to Moza. They sent me this Moza Mini 3-axis gimbal for smartphones. So if you shoot a lot of video with your smartphone, want smoother footage, I've had a really good user experience with it and would recommend it to any of you guys. If you want to learn more about it, then watch one of my videos right here. If you'd like to purchase it, link in the description below. I have lots of videos, so make sure to check out my channel. See you guys next time.